When you think of 1990s internet, you probably think of clogged phone lines and slowly loading web pages. Today we take a look at a pioneering technology that attempted to put 3D worlds inside your web browser 30 years ago. This and more coming up next on Wave Design. What may surprise you is that one of the early innovators in the internet space was Silicon Graphics, the same hardware company that provided computers for the special effects of Jurassic Park and later on the Nintendo 64. What would they want on the internet? Well, SGI was actually well prepared to become a leader in the space. Not only did every SGI system come with networking and Unix out of the box, but also a graphical desktop just like Mac and Windows. But SGI wasn't just interested in the regular 2D internet like other companies. While they provided standard HTML editors and server tools to help users create websites, they were thinking a step further and were a major backer of a technology called VRML, or the Virtual Reality Modeling Language. VRML was proposed as a 3D equivalent of HTML based on SGI's graphics technologies, and would allow users to visit 3D worlds right inside of their web browser, all linked together using a common technology just like 2D web pages. And if it sounds like the fever dream of a graphics company that was deemed too big to fail in 1995, SGI really did push VRML as the future of the internet. In 1996, they released the first betas of their Cosmo Player plugin, not only for iRix, but also for Windows 95, advertised as running on any home computer with just a Pentium and 16 megabytes of RAM. And if we take a look inside the CD that SGI shipped, we'll find several examples of VRML worlds to explore in the web browser. Perhaps the most surprising thing about this is that it actually does run correctly on Windows 95, without any kind of 3D acceleration or special hardware. Granted, the graphics look more like what you'd find on a Super Nintendo Super Effects chip at the time, with wobbly polygons and no real anti-aliasing of any sort. Certainly nothing like what you'd get with the same scene loaded on an SGI workstation. But this was 3D graphics inside your web browser on Windows 95. It would have been unheard of at the time. And these demos don't even show the true capabilities of what VRML could do. Not only would you need a more powerful system than this compact Desk Pro, but you would also need a better editor. Unlike 2D web pages, which you could create in Notepad if you really wanted to, the code for VRML is complex and unfriendly. SGI realized this, and in 1997 began bundling a new program called Cosmo Worlds with their systems. Cosmo Worlds was a full graphical editor for VRML, sort of an odd hybrid of a 3D modeling program and Adobe Dreamweaver, where users could create worlds and define 3D shapes without ever having to write a single line of code in an editor. It came with everything needed out of the box for the user to get started creating advanced VRML environments, whether it was materials or even full texture maps. All of which could be packaged and previewed to run right inside of Netscape, a start-to-finish solution for 3D environments you could share across the internet. Combining a powerful editor like Cosmo with hardware like the Octane, you could create entire VRML cyberscapes across the internet. We're going to attempt to create our own cyberscape, coming up next on Wave Design. So if we're going to build a 90s cyberscape, we've got to think like big tech companies and think of what people actually did in the 90s. Starting out with our internet hub, we've got a nice checker platform with a monitor in front and doors to the rest of our environment. Of course, it wouldn't be a 90s cyberspace if the environments weren't linked through these giant Mist-style library buildings. And we'll also go ahead and give it an era-appropriate space background, give it even more of a cyberspace feel. It's actually really period correct for the time. It's kind of crazy. Like a science fiction reality brought to life. The other thing we want to do is go ahead and connect our doors to other scenes using the link editor. So we'll change the link on our office. And that will actually be the first environment that we work on outside the hub. The office space is designed with a 4-wall cubicle set, some chairs and computer monitors, as well as a coffee machine and water cooler. Though if we import it into Cosmo, we'll see that there's no detail yet. So the first thing we'll need to do is use the material palette to start assigning shaders, and also adjust some of our settings for details like transparency. You might have also noticed these 2D planes throughout the office. One technique we can use to add a lot of decorative detail without hurting the system performance is to use 2D billboards throughout the scene. This is a very 1990s way of applying graphics, but if we add a GIF of a copy machine, we can put that as a 2D object inside our office. Same with the water cooler, and even little floppy disk. We also need an office mascot, so we'll apply a poster of Clippy to the back wall if you try to leave early. And we'll also want to set textures for our walls and floors. Looking pretty good. One thing we can do as well that's fun is we can click on these individual objects and add sound effects to them using the sound editor. So if we want the fax machine to make noise when somebody clicks it, we can type in our sound bank and find a sound file. And then add a touch sensor to it. So now when we come over here and click on the fax machine, pretty cool. Our living room set has a couple of interesting areas. There's of course a TV to watch movies on, and a nice kitchenette with a fridge and sink. Like the office area, it comes in gray and unfinished, so we'll need to immediately begin applying our billboard textures. And also add in our decorative Pizza Hut box. Because why would you have a fridge if you're not going to have Pizza Hut inside of it? And once again, choosing a wallpaper and floor from our texture library, and adding a backdrop to our window, so you're not completely stuck inside. Looking pretty cool. But it's a little bit static and kind of boring. There's no interaction anywhere, and it's just kind of plain. One of the things we can do to really add a fun level of interaction is use the animation editor that's built into Cosmo. So for example, if we wanted to be able to open and shut the refrigerator, we can set some keyframes here and rotate our fridge door in and out. And then if we scrub that timeline, we can see that the fridge opens and shuts. And once again, we can use a touch sensor so that this is actually clickable in the final scene. And we can have multiple animations. For example, if we wanted a clickable teapot, we could do some cool 3D animation squash and stretch. Basically the introduction to animation project for every class. And we'll set that up with some keyframes as well. We can even animate the sink flooding with water. And all of this creates this fun level of interaction. It's a very 1990s style of design, especially on CD-ROMs and the internet, where everything had to be clickable with some kind of animation or Easter egg. Now our outdoor scene has a couple of interesting areas. There's a tree with a swing and a nice little kiddie pool with the rubber duck, since we're programmers, and our email box where we can check our email. We'll start out first just adding some light with the light editor so that our outdoor scene doesn't look so drab, and then we'll go ahead and apply our wall and sky texture. It's more of one of those outdoor liminal spaces that isn't really outside. We'll add in our very Nintendo 64 looking grass. I love that texture just for how kind of blurry and billboarded it is. And we'll choose a texture for our ground grass. This is actually a fabric pattern that came from Alias. We're repurposing it as grass in this scene. But what we really want to give attention to is the mailbox near the door. We'll give this a really neat animation where the box opens and closes when it's clicked on. And not only that, but also add some junk mail to the inside of it. What could be more junk mail than an AOL flyer and an eviction notice? And of course, we'll add a sound effect when you click the mailbox. I'm sure you can guess which sound effect will play. Add our touch sensor to that too. And now,
you've got mail.
Perfect early internet. And with our scenes all finished and ready to go, we can open up the Cosmo package window and add them all together into a single directory. This is something really cool that Cosmo Worlds does. It takes all of the references in the VRML code and saves them together in one stage folder, so that there's no incomplete references or broken links. everything works as it should. And here's our 90s cyberspace. So if we could make our own cyberscapes and 3D worlds on the internet, why didn't the technology take off? SGI's trade shows and demos made it look like stepping into the future, but the obvious reality is that most people were connecting to the internet through phone lines, and your average Circuit City special wasn't going to render 3D with much fidelity. By the time that internet speeds and integrated graphics improved to match the full capabilities of VRML, the standard had already been obsolete for years, and the idea of exploring the internet as a physical space became one of the more dated jokes about 90s internet. At the end of everything, even with perfect technology, 2D internet pages are faster and easier for the average user, and most people would prefer not to be dropped into the Lawnmower Man nightmare skates just to check their email. Still, you can't deny that VRML feels like a feature we never got to see the full potential of, with these otherworldly buildings and environments really just begging to be explored online. That's all for today, but be sure to check back this summer when we take a deep dive into Infinity among other projects. See you then!